Welcome to session number 13 of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication with Jim and Jori Manske. And I turn it to you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Martha.
you, Martha. I'm holding you in my heart.
Yeah, I really catch that you're in the middle of processing something that's really deeply important to you. It's not a personal thing. It's bigger than that. It's at the systemic level for you. And you're not quite sure what it means yet, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge the hearts that showed up in response to you as well. Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah. Thank you for being here to support us, even though you're in that moment of confusion and befuddlement and processing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ah,
Welcome to the rest of you.
yeah.
See lots of familiar faces and some new faces if you're here for the first time. Thank you for finding us. It's always a little bit of a mystery to me how people find us, but I'm really glad that you do. And I'm Jim Manske.
I'm Jori Manske.
And we are both certified trainers in nonviolent communication. And we're here today to share some tips about the skill of empathy. And I feel, well, I noticed just a layer of tenderness after hearing Marta check in. And I guess the longing is that she care for herself and that she get the care that she needs. And so that's the need that's most alive in me, along with contributing to you all. How are you?
Yeah, I want to say ditto to what you just said about my heart really holding you, Martha, and just the appreciation too for all the holding I saw as you shared. Yeah, I'm glad that we have a community and we spend time together, keeping our consciousness in that caring space. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me give you a little roadmap because it is the first time, or maybe you're relatively new to the class. We'll start in just a moment with a self-connection exercise. And we will probably touch on, it'll be a little bit of a review of what we did last week, which was about mourning. And so after the self-connection exercise, we'll invite you to go to small groups, which are usually 3 people, sometimes 4, sometimes 2. But there it's just a chance to be with somebody else and to practice honesty and empathy with some friends. And then we'll come back to the main room here, where we'll hear from a few people about what it's like for you so far here today, or what's been going on in your life with NVC. And then we have a lesson prepared about empathy, the skill of empathy. And we hope to make some distinctions about what empathy is and what empathy isn't from a nonviolent communication point of view. And certainly not the only point of view or the right point of view, but just kind of the way we teach it. And then there'll be a chance to practice some being with in an empathic space with others, and to watch other people do that as well. And which reminds me, there was a request last time or time before to maybe do a demo. So we might include a demo as part of that process today as well. See how the time goes. And so anything up for anybody before we dive in? Okay. Yeah, Sherry.
You
It's
unmute.
yes.
There you go.
Yes. Jim Jori and or it's just my saluting for Masya. I am living right now in a peaceful nature. But thank you for you just bring up your sorrow and touching due to the election there. You know, Marcia, it's just, you know, like the lightning to my head said, boom. Here is oneness. Here is authenticity. So currently in my heart, I embrace all those peace is right now, right here in my body. And also I have some space with you too. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great lead in to our self-connection exercise. Because maybe you're sad about something too. Maybe there's something that's not clear to you. There's some sense of befuddlement or mourning or sadness. And so just pick something like that. Don't pick something that sends you to therapy, but pick something that's kind of on the low end of the scale of suffering and pain, to just practice being present with it. So we'll be doing some self-empathy here. I'll give you a second just to see if you can connect with something. I notice as I tune in and look for something to share with you, my mind immediately goes to all my level 5s. You know, the things that are most scary for me or most concerned. So I'm trying to wind it down to something that I can stay more present to. And it's going to sound more trivial. So I notice like some embarrassment or some shame that I would practice self-empathy about something that's kind of might be judged as trivial. And yet that's what I'm asking you to do, is to pick something light to mourn. So here it comes for me. Our daughter Jaya lives with us, and she has a dog. And Kira is a little poodle, like a miniature poodle, and she barks a lot. And today she was not a lot, but she barks when she's scared. Let me put it that way. That's the observation. When it seems like Kira is scared, she barks, and she barks at my friend and the handyman that comes over. So that's the observation for me. That's what I'm going to be with, is what goes on for me when I'm with Kira and my friend Jimmy. So see if you can come up with something at that level of 1 or 2 that you feel sad or confused about.
Yeah. Or wish that was different. Yeah.
And describe it to yourself. And the purpose of describing it to yourself is to awaken the skill of observing, to just say to yourself what you see or hear, smell, taste, or touch. In my case, I see Jimmy walking in my office door, and Kira comes running in and just starts barking. So no evaluation, no judgment, just what I see. What is it that you see and hear? And then right now, notice how your body responds and reacts to your memory of this thing happening. I notice embarrassment, helplessness, some frustration, some irritation. I notice a lot of energy in my legs, like I want to run away. What do you notice in terms of sensations and emotions in your body as you connect to your memory? So you notice sensations and emotions and then name them for yourself. And open your heart with some warmth towards yourself for having this experience. You have a nervous system. And of course, because of your nervous system, you're going to have a reaction to what happens in the world. That's part of being a living human being. So acknowledge that for yourself. Of course, you feel whatever it is for you. And do it with a quality of warmth and care in the voice of your best friend or mentor or someone who you know and trust really loves you. What would they say? How would it sound in their voice? And see if you can stretch a little bit to allow yourself to really feel these uncomfortable feelings. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just let it go. But part of the skill of mourning is to gently increase your capacity to be with pain. So in the presence of your warmth, just be with your discomfort. And one way to support yourself is to connect the feelings that you have to your needs. This is a way of generating even more warmth. So what's important to you about this? In my case, it's about love for my friend, love for the dog, peace, and quiet. Something about wanting to have a welcoming space. So if I had a welcoming space, it would somehow contribute to safety. What's it about for you? And if you find a need or some needs that are important to you, savor those. Savoring means to connect to the pleasure of being a human being with these needs. Of course, safety is important to me. It's got me as far as I've gotten in the world. Without safety, I wouldn't be able to be here right now. That need for safety is precious to me. Of course, I want to have a welcoming home. Of course, I want love. And from this place of savoring needs, being open to feelings, contact some resourcefulness inside of you. What I mean by that is to think of something, maybe a time when one of these needs has been met. Maybe a time when you felt safe. And savor that sense of what it's like to enjoy when your need for whatever it is, in my case, safety and welcoming, has been fed. And then to be with those feelings as they arise. To greet those feelings with warmth. To make a heart big enough for both pain and pleasure. And finally, see if there's a request that arises for you. Is there something you want to do from now on in relationship to this morning? Or is morning enough? There's no right answer to this question. There's no need for a request. Sometimes morning is enough. And sometimes a request will arise. What's it like for you? And then finally, just connect with what it's like to be you in this moment after having had this experience of self-empathy and mourning. And it's a new moment. How are you right now? Is this something that contributed to any of your needs? If so, celebrate that. If not, there's more opportunity for mourning. If your eyes have been closed like mine, you can let them open. Look around the space that you're in. And we'll move into small groups and catch each other, be present for one another. And we'll do it for 15 minutes. So the timer will say 14 minutes and there'll be 1 minute at the end. So this allows everyone.
Oh, wow.
The Zoom.
I love that. It's fun to watch everybody whiz back in.
And here we are. So notice how you feel right now as we re-engage with the large group. And do a quick version of that self-connection exercise. Just notice how you feel right now. Name it for yourself. Greet those feelings with warmth and compassion, with empathy. Connect to the need or needs that are resonating in your experience right now. Yeah. And then here we are. This is the chance to hear from a few of you about what your experience is like in this moment. And I see one hand up so far from Jeannie. If you'd like to be heard today, I'd love to hear your voice. If you've never done that here in the large group, it can be kind of intimidating and scary. And so you can also chat if you prefer to chat with us in the text chat. But I do encourage hearing more voices. I'd love to hear your voice. Really supports a sense of connection and community for me. So if you don't know how to raise your hand, there's a little button on the bottom of your screen that says reactions and a little up arrow button. You can push that and it has a raise hand button in there. So Jeannie, what's alive?
Thank you. I'm reminded not only of the sort of struggle that you went through to find something small, but then once I find something small, it connects to the big stuff in no time at all.
Yeah,
So,
not uncommon, yes.
yeah. And also, I just wanted to say within our group, it just really became clear how precious compassion is and how deeply meaningful it is when people recognize that need and hold it together. Thank you for that opportunity.
You're very welcome. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
thank you for highlighting that. It's such an important part of what we do. I'm glad it happened. Anybody else have anything they would like to say before we go forward? I see.
Yeah, Rita.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, as I share with my group, and I said that at the very first beginning, I don't see anything that I want to look at, and there's nothing. I felt so peaceful in my life, and then it suddenly come to me that I want to see the relationship with my sister, which that I never have the courage to look at it.
Mm.
And just as and who's the first one to say that it seems nothing, and then it's more, and it's become deeper and bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds so tender for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's around a longing for connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to have the chance to dive into it and see it clearly what's my need
Mhm.
and what happened.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. Thank you
Yeah.
for your
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. There's lots for all of us to mourn. Terry and Doug.
Hi, I'm Terry. Feeling so grateful. I am really sensitive to energetic fields, and so when we all did the practice together, and I went to the part of connecting with my knees, I just felt so much holding because everyone was holding, and it was this magnificent, loving presence, and it really made me cry because it's so wonderful to have this way of being together and to be able to experience that. So thank you everyone for being here and for your practice and for the opportunity, Jim and Jori.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us and sharing that.
Thanks for your putting your voice into the circle and sharing what it's like to be you. That sense of sensitivity and connection to the energy that we're all co-creating together.
Yeah.
And Umesh.
Yeah. So when you were describing the situation and I closed my eyes, not just one, multiple things came up. Okay. And in the breakout room, I chose one of them. Okay. I realized, there is a common pattern that is between all of them. And so many times, what happens is there is something that I'm passionate about. Okay, I do it proactively. Okay, going out of my comfort zone, pushing things again, and then something big happens again. Then I'm not in the resource. I become under-resourced. Okay, and then the same request, which I would have loved earlier, to be given an opportunity, that comes again. That request comes as a demand. Okay, and I'm like frustrated, and sometimes I just vomit it out. Okay, so it may not be related to that it may be something else. Okay, and then I lose the connection. Okay, mostly at the protection level. Okay, trying to, and this way, I have done it so many times in so many relationships. Okay, so that reaction, instinct to protect myself, and then vomiting it out, on the other person.
Yeah,
that's what I mourn about.
Yeah. Let me see if I've got it, Umesh.
Yes,
Can I see if I understand you? That you notice that you have this, you called it a pattern of really wanting to protect yourself. And that sometimes in the whatever you're doing to protect yourself, it seems to push people away. And that breaks your heart a little bit because you really long for that sense of connection. Did I get it?
One thing is, yeah, it is that way. Okay, so it is about what is core and what is outer. Okay, so sometimes I expanding out in certain areas. Okay, takes effort. Okay, and then then I get under resourced because of something else. Okay, and then whatever I was expanding out, okay, I just vomit out. Okay, I want to protect from that one. Okay, save my energy or something else. Okay, and I don't do it nicely. I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes you regret some of the ways that you react, and because you
Yes.
notice how it might have an effect on other people that you care about.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the mourning is around the well-being of your of those that you're relating to. Is that right? And
Yes.
maybe also mourning your own capacity to stay present and open. Yeah. I resemble that remark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's very common human
Yeah.
experience, Umesh.
It's not foreign to us.
Yeah, I
not to
appreciate you
me.
sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Any-
And then I'll put my hand up.
Yes, Jori, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. I have had a very busy day and I feel really, really tired. And I'm gonna go lay down and leave this all to you and Jim together to do the rest of the class. So I'm glad I got to see you. I'm glad you're here, and I will see you again next time. Mwah. Aloha.
Aloha, Jori.
Thanks for taking care of yourself and modeling self-care, Jori.
Aloha.
Yeah, Jori and I both wore our giraffe t-shirts today. Probably can't see mine very well, but mine is a giraffe, and you probably can't read it. There's too fine print, but it says, "Your presence is the most precious gift you can give to another human being."
And check and see if they understood you. So
Yeah. Your presence is the most precious gift you can give to another human being, and that's, of course, Marshall.
Bye.
Bye, Jor. Yeah, Georg.
Yeah. Hi, is that the jackal saying that to the giraffe, or the giraffe saying that to the jackal on its back?
Both.
Both. That's an enlightened jackal. It's about to become
Yes,
a
well,
giraffe.
all of our jackal. Marshall said one of my favorite Marshall lines is, "There's no such thing as a jackal. It's only a giraffe with a language problem."
Well, see, yeah, to me, a jackal is just a giraffe still to be discovered.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to share anything before we start doing some learning and practice together? Any questions about mourning? Anything left over from last week that you're mourning, not having the understanding you would like? Okay. Well, there'll be more opportunity to hear from you as we keep going. So let's see what happens today. I'm going to share my screen with you. You should be seeing the word empathy and someone's hand in the water. If that's not what you're seeing, just let us know. Here's my chat. So as you know, we're doing this the series on the skills of the Pathways to Liberation Matrix, and we're on the skill today of empathy, which when we wrote the Matrix, gosh, 10 years ago now, more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was being present with another's experience with unconditional acceptance of the person. I'm going to pause here and see what's up for Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't know if you could see that chart that was blocking part of the words. So I was going to let you know about that.
Oh, there's I could not tell. That would be something that would be an NVC Academy little setting that might need to get shifted. But thanks for letting me know that something was blocking part of the screen. I appreciate that. I will, Marta will note that, and it's a little setting that it's every once in a while Zoom will do an update, and we have to go back in and redo some things. Okay, back to here. Being present with another's experience with Pallavi. Pallavi?
I had a question about mourning. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a more like a more like a question or a clarification about mourning. Can I go about it now? Is it a good time
Sure.
or should I?
Yes.
So one of the things I notice is during the whatever the process of something comes in, feeling certain needs, and I'm in the process of self-empathy, and the life goes on, right? There's some other situation comes in, or we just have to keep moving. You're in some place where I can't just sit and take time out for myself. Those times are I'm kind of confused because I can't take time out for myself. I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm in the middle of a conversation within the family, or I'm in the middle of cooking or serving food, or I'm just kind of, left confused with a muddled heap of such things, or even conversation with friends. I just wanted to check what strategies could there be to kind of, sometimes it takes a lot more time than I think it should.
Yeah. Yeah, what I get is what I'm sensing is that you notice pain comes up. You really want to take some time to mourn it, to really give yourself the empathy that you know you need. And yet life keeps unfolding. And you're not sure how to juggle all the requests that are on your table and the requests you might have of yourself for attending to your pain. Yeah. Well, I suppose there's quite a few strategies, but they all take time, right? And so one of the things that I would say is that the longer that I practice NVC, the more quickly I've gotten with emergency first aid self-empathy. So what I mean by emergency first aid self-empathy is that I get just connected enough to be able to know what my needs are, to acknowledge what my experience is, and then to carefully put that little package of feelings and needs onto a shelf, a precious shelf that I know I'll be able to attend to later. And then when later comes, I try to do my best to be self-responsible about what I put on the shelf that day. And maybe my time would be my meditation period, or right before I fall asleep, or maybe some journaling or something like that. But to actually prioritize the being part of being a human being and let go somewhat of the doing part of being a human doing. It just takes some focus, I think, and some willingness to keep practicing. And just do a little bit. You're never going to be finished, as far as I can tell. There'll always be more to mourn than there is time, because that's just the way life is. We have lots of unmet needs. And so until we learn to become more effective, I guess would be the word, in terms of self-care, then it's going to feel like a bit of a pileup behind this of these unaddressed issues. So just keep chipping away at it is what I would say, and trust that if you do a little bit of self-empathy, like we did during the opening practice, if you do just a little bit, it actually helps to attend to all the rest of it as well. Because it's the love and the warmth that's doing the healing and the integration work. So I invite you just to sit with that, Pallavi, and see if it resonates, and to see how you feel by the end of the class, and see if there's anything else, unless there's something you want to say right now.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I should wait for the class.
Okay. So this definition, being present with another's experience with unconditional acceptance of the person, this clearly is inspired by Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of NVC, as well as Carl Rogers, his teacher, and someone that talked a lot about unconditional care for human beings. this is the pathway of, of deepening our skill of empathy until it becomes our consciousness. I'll just be quiet for a few minutes while you sit with it. So as you look at this pathway, you might have the thought that this looks like a linear progression, and it's certainly set up that way, but it's really not a linear progression in my experience. It's more like a spiral that on some days it really seems like I'm quite integrated with a particular skill. Other days I seem to have lost touch with it. Even sometimes different moments in the same day, I can dance between these various areas on the pathway. The important thing to me about having the pathway is it's a bit of a guide about where I am habitually in the moment, and whether I'm making a quality of movement in the direction that I'd like to go. Monica?
Yeah, I have a question about empathy. Can I ask it now?
You can ask.
Okay, here we go. I just did the question. Okay, here's my question. Hold on. So I was understanding, okay, maybe I don't understand it right, but I was understanding that like if someone is sad, and then empathy is like to be sad with them, to like match the body sensations, the facial expressions, the tone, the volume, and the emotions. Is that correct or no?
Maybe. I would say that I'm going to stick with our definition for today of just being with another person's experience, not having another person's experience. But I'll also say that there's lots of different people studying and teaching about empathy. And just because I say something is the way it is doesn't mean it's true. It's just based on my experience and what I've learned in nonviolent communication. So for me, empathy is about being with another person's experience, not having the other person's experience. Now, I'm going to have my own experience of their experience. So, but it's still my experience that I'm having. So I want to keep my experience clear as mine, and their experience clear as theirs. And so I don't know if that muddied the water more for you, if it clarified anything for you, Monica.
I don't know, because for me, I guess I always thought that empathy was, you know, to match their energy, to match what's up for them. And if they're, you know, they're sad and you're happy or angry, that doesn't really match. That's not empathy. So I'm confused still.
Yeah, I catch your confusion. And so as we keep going today, I think it might become a little bit clearer. I'll just say preliminarily at the beginning that what our intention is really matters when we're moving into an empathic connection with somebody. And so we'll talk a little bit more about intention as we keep going. But my intention is to be present, not to guide somebody, not to have their experience, not to fix them, not to cheer them up. I don't have an agenda when I'm in empathy. I just have presence. In fact, I'm not even sure I totally exist anymore as a separate being when I'm in empathy. I'm just in an empathic state, kind of like that energy that someone was, Terry was kind of mentioning, this field that exists between human beings. I'm entering into the field of another person's experience without trying to change their field. I'm not trying to have their field. I'm not trying to change my field. I'm just being with them in that moment. So that's my intention and empathy, is to be present. So hang out with it and see what you learned today, and maybe you'll shift and maybe you'll get clearer on what it means to you. Linda?
So I was having an empathy session with someone recently, and her experience matched, and what she was talking about matched what I was actually going through. And I was like, I mean, I was so into it, like you were saying about almost, I didn't feel like I was having the same experience, but she was kind of like saying what I was feeling about a similar thing. And so it was very hard for me to concentrate on, to remove myself from it, if that makes sense. So I felt like I had a hard time giving her empathy, because I became so, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, what I'm catching is that that you it got a little bit confusing for you. You weren't quite sure where the boundary was between your experience and the other person's experience.
Yes, that's it. And it's because we were sharing, well, I mean, it was shared reality.
Yeah, there was a quality of, maybe the word would be resonance. You were really energetically resonating with what one another's experience was in that moment.
Yeah, so my problem was I felt like I had a hard time then getting out of my own experience and giving her the empathy that she was looking for, or that we were there for.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's really a common experience, especially as we're growing into this skill. And I'll do my best to keep clarifying it as we go. So let's practice really briefly here. I've got a fun little video that I want to share with you. It's probably less than a minute long. And it's one of those things that popped up on the YouTube algorithm. It has nothing to do with NVC directly or anything like that. It just seemed to me a wonderful opportunity to practice empathy. And so it's called 2 quid for 2 ice creams. Maybe some of you have seen it on YouTube or TikTok or wherever these things go. And so I'm going to play it for you as soon as it looks like my screen. Here it is. So I tried to put subtitles on. It goes by pretty quickly. These girls are speaking in maybe a Scottish English accent, and they're talking pretty quickly. So you don't have to even understand the words, just be with their experience. And so first, just get into, do your best to get into some kind of openness to experience. Set your intention to connect with this little girl, the one in the white shirt. She's going to be doing the talking. And then do the best you can to stay present with her experience. I'm going to stop the share for just a second, make sure I push all the right buttons so you guys can hear it right. Okay, here we go.
Girls, what's just happened?
So, there's an ice cream van there selling just 2 ice creams with 2 chewing gums in it.
Yeah.
For bloody £9 for 2 of them.
£9 for 2?
Yeah, £9. That is going to get nowhere. One that comes on my street is either £1 a p or £2. That is going to get nowhere with that.
No, he ain't, is it?
No, he ain't.
That's well bad, isn't it?
You should know. And he only does bloody card. Stood there with my cash. Bloody hell.
That's well bad, isn't it?
Bloody well bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he can hear me.
So what's your empathy guess? If you were the woman who was videoing these little girls, what do you sense is alive in that little girl? The one in the white. You could put your answer into the chat. What do you sense why don't you start with the observation? What do you sense the little girl was observing just before she started talking with the person making the video? Yeah, the vendor was charging too much. That would be her belief. Yes. She's feeling incredulous, outrage, shock, bewilderment. She's observing that two ice creams cost £9. She's big annoyed. Yes, you're catching these repugnance. She's ticked off, outrage, has a need for fairness. Yeah. So so we're catching now, we're going from observations to some feelings and now we're starting to get into some needs for fairness. What other needs do you imagine are alive in this little girl as she says this? Understanding. Yeah, she would love to have some ice cream. That'd be like empathizing with her request. She wants some care, a need for shared reality, equality, care, respect, ease, justice, fairness, understanding, enjoyment, change, acceptance, need for choice, fairness, self-expression, to be heard, predictability, personal empowerment, that some quality of choice, that her money gets her what she wants. Makes sense? So I want to check in with you, Monica, since we were just talking just a second ago. Did you feel rage while you were listening to this little girl? Did you feel, yeah, go ahead.
I knew she was angry. I knew she was pissed off, and I could figure out that it was because of the price and that he wouldn't get any money for how much he was selling the two ice creams. And she was sharing that she was really pissed off and it was really unfair.
Yeah, so you were with her, and were you feeling that feeling yourself?
Not at the moment, because I was trying to understand the story and her speech, because I wasn't used to hearing that. So I had to focus on her speech.
Yeah. So you had a different focus. And so this is a really important key point about empathy that we'll go into in a little bit more detail here. Where we put our focus really matters. And the way that I set this up was, this is a brief video. It was kind of funny in a way. It had a lot of energy to it. It was not personal, probably to most of us anyway, unless you happen to know these little girls. So it's probably pretty easy to stay in empathy. That's my guess. Did anybody have any difficulty being present with this little girl? My favorite line was right at the end when she says, he can probably hear me, or something like that. So what do you think that need is? To be heard? Yeah. Justice? Be heard and understood. Yeah. And then, so the woman taking the video, she's making some empathic words or sounds anyway. She's not doing classic NVC empathy or anything, but she's really with the girl, it seemed to me. And she didn't judge the girl for having these strong feelings. So she was in a non-judgmental space as far as we could tell. And she was just present with this girl's experience. She met her. She didn't try to talk her out of her experience. She didn't try to convince her that she was wrong or that it was fair for the guy to try to, she didn't try to educate her in any particular way. And then after she finished listening, did you notice what happened? The little girl just ran off to play. She was complete. For me, there was a sense of, okay, that's done. Now I'm going to go see if I can find some ice cream somewhere else, or I'm going to go find something else to do. I'm not going to wallow in my upset here. I'm just going to move on. Anybody else have anything you want to share about this little experiment? Street NVC, yeah. She is wise, Benedict says. Pallavi?
But also the person who was taking the video was amused.
Yes, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that in her voice.
So her experience was really kind of amusement. I don't know if she was really empathic to the girl.
Yeah, there was a kind of a quality of warm amusement that came through to me as well. Allison? Allison, yeah, there you go.
I was just kind of fascinated by, she looks pretty young, but her issue, I expected, is I'm pissed off because I can't get the ice cream I want. But it didn't register with me that that was her complaint was, it sounded like, incredulous that this guy would be so stupid business-wise, and and it just sort of basically incompetent emotionally and incompetently business-wise, and that I thought it was quite observing of her, and it amused me.
Yeah. So let's assume you were right, just for grins, and that she had this these judgments of this other person. When I'm in empathy, I can't hear a judgment other than as an observation. So what do you think her need was when she's thinking that this other person's an incompetent businessman or business person?
I really sense the need for, you could say connection, but that to have things, connections that are possible made. You know, she wanted to connect with the ice cream, and she wanted to connect with him, and those were both possible, but not the way it was going.
Yeah. So you have a sense that her need was connection and for ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That matches some of my empathy guesses. Thanks, Allison. And by the way, Allison, your microphone is a little hard for us to hear you clearly. So I don't know exactly what that's about, but maybe you can check your settings or something like that. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Terry or Doug?
Well, I just noticed that, I mean, from my perspective watching her, she was voicing her complaints, and then she just kept going, in her face, and then her face started getting into it. And then there just seemed to be this crescendo where like all of the energy that was about her unmet need came out. And then, like you said, she seemed complete. And that, like watching that cycle of like, express, and then really get into it, like with the face and the growl in her face, and then it was gone. That was just beautiful to me that she did get to express it, and then she could be done. And
yeah,
it was a relief to watch her get it all out and be done.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, there was a sense of appreciation that she was able to follow her energy and get to a sense of being heard enough to go off and live the rest of her life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I can imagine this video being played on her wedding day by somebody
right,
find it or something like that.
yeah.
Levelized into the internet. I think it's had something like, it's already been seen by, I don't know how many people. It's got 38,000 likes on it. So she might be making some money off of this by now. Benedict?
Yeah, maybe with the money she can buy the ice creams, actually.
There you go. She can afford 9 quid ice cream.
Yes. Now, what I wanted to say is that it seems to me that the two girls are twins. They look like very similar if we look, and I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's very NVC, but it's more. It looks like the two are one person. So one is a bit disowned, who doesn't really speak. She never speaks. She's here in the back, and the other one speaks up fully because she knows the other one is like kind of balancing the energy. I don't know. I got that too.
So that's cool. You were empathizing with the one who wasn't speaking, and you caught that she was actually okay with that, and that her needs were being met for self-expression by her sister or friend or whoever she was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a level of depth that I had not touched in that video. Thank you, Benedict. Very cool. Okay, so back to work here. So we get time for one more practice. Let's see here. So let's talk just a little bit about what empathy is not. And hopefully this will start answering some of the questions that were up earlier. One, do not, here these are quotes, all quotes from Marshall Rosenberg. Do not think that what you say is empathy. As soon as you think empathy is what you say, we're off target. Empathy is where we connect our attention, our consciousness. It's not what we say out loud. So if Marshall's right, empathy is not the words we use. There's certain habits that involve words that can get in the way of our experiencing empathy, this respectful understanding of another person's experience. We might have a sympathetic response, which means we feel the same thing they're feeling. That's the definition of sympathy, and in NVC terms. And so sympathy is when I'm feeling what you're feeling. I'm having a sympathetic reaction. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a really beautiful thing that human beings can do, is to sympathize with each other. It seems very bonding and can sometimes be very connecting, and sometimes not so much. If the need is empathy and we offer sympathy, we're not going to be contributing to the need, because sympathy is a form of honesty. It's not a form of empathy. Sympathy begins with the word I. So it's about me and my experience. Empathy begins with the word you. It's about you and your experience. Likewise with giving advice or trying to fix the other person, trying to cheer them up. I think you should, or I think that it would be better if, or all the things we say that are trying to shift the other person's experience, those are all forms of empathy. I mean, of honesty. They can also be very powerful. And for me, it's a matter of timing. If someone's in pain, they're not going to be able to hear my white wisdom anyway. So I'll save my wisdom for a time when I sense they're open. And I'll know they're open is because they'll ask for it. And if they don't ask for it, and it's still alive in me, I can ask them if they'd like to hear my advice or what comes up for me about it. So there's a place for sympathy and giving advice and offering support. But I want to be, when I'm in empathy, I want to flow with the energy of the person that I'm with. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to fix them. I'm trying to be with them. Another habit that can get in the way of empathy is, and it's another form of honesty, is talking about our own experience that's even worse than the one that they're having. So the little girl says something about how ice cream was 9 quid. And I said, well, gosh, have you been to the airport lately and tried to buy a sandwich? I was just in the airport the other day on a trip, and I can't believe how much they want even for a cup of coffee. So, it's coming from this place of resonating with another person's experience, but it's about me and my experience. And it sounds like I'm actually trying to minimize or dismiss the other person's experience sometimes. Sometimes, again, it can be quite connecting to do that. We can have a pity party and kind of moan and groan and wail together, but it's not empathy. Let me just pause there and see if there's any responses or reactions from anybody. Okay, not seeing any hands. We'll keep going, which is great. So we'll have time to practice here. We'll never, oh, go ahead, Shalu.
Yeah, Jim, hearing you, the thing coming to me is in day-to-day life, hearing the conflicts or the sharings of others, all those things happen. Sometimes we resonate what the other person is sharing. Sometimes we listen and be quiet, and that might sound an abrupt, listening, or the other person feels the person is not listening. Sometimes it happen as criticism, sometimes education, sometimes all those things happens.
Yeah, they're all part of the human experience, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how to hold,
Go ahead.
How to hold, or shift ourselves when we are doing all of it, some other time with some other person or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say the shortcut answer to how to is to get really clear in our intention before we move into an empathic state. So, like for the woman, I'm just guessing now what the woman's experience who made the little video, her experience was to do a video. She thought she was amused and she wanted to she thought there was something cute about this or whatever she thought. And so she didn't have an intention to empathize. She had an intention to make a video. So of course she's not going to be in empathy. Here, I set it up for all you guys to be in empathy for her. And so all of you were able to do it because that was your intention. So this is why we have such a emphasis on the 0 step in the way that we share NVC, is to get clear on our intention to connect or to empathize in this case, and to become as present as we can be with what's actually happening right now, not bicycling off into the past or into the future, and be open to outcome, including the other person may not get the empathy that they want. They may not get fixed. They may end the session with you more upset than when they started. We don't know. We're just open to find out what might happen when we're in empathy. Does that make sense, Shalu?
Beautiful, and love the explanation. Like, it makes clear it up. It's nothing to blame ourselves, or we sometimes go and try NVC and hit back with others, like what is happening, and then blame back like what we are learning, and it's creating more conflicts, more fights.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's useful, very useful.
You're
Thank you so much.
Patricia?
So I heard you say something, Jim, that I didn't quite expect, and I have a question about it. So I'm sorry, but I'm going back up to sympathy. You said something like, where did I wrote it down. Sympathy is about it's about honesty. So I was thinking about that, and I'd like to run something by you. So when I'm having sympathy for someone, the first sentence that pops into my head is "I'm sorry." So I'm using the subject I am sorry, and is in that way, am I focusing on my feeling about what's going on for the other person, and in that respect my attention is actually not with them, it's more on me and my experience of what they're going through? Is that
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That
okay.
when I'm in honesty, the pronoun is I. I'm going to be talking about my experience. I can shift back and forth between honesty and empathy, at the speed of life. But when I'm speaking about my sorrow, and that is the classic way of expressing sympathy, is I'm sorry for your experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. It can be, like I said earlier, it can be quite healing and integrating and warm to express a sorrow about someone's loss. But it's just not empathy. It's okay. Yeah.
So are there any words then that you do say when you're empathizing besides the feelings and needs guess? Because sometimes that falls flat with people who know I practice NVC. They don't want that.
Yeah.
So in that case, is there anything else, street giraffe?
Yeah,
Without
it's a perfect lead in, of course, for the next part, which is what empathy is. We focus a little bit on what it isn't. And so empathy is a respectful understanding of what others are experiencing. So notice we can have a respectful understanding of another person's experience without any words. If we had more time, and maybe we'll do it next week, I'll show you a little piece of video, and this will be in the notes that you'll have in the classroom after the call. So you fast forward to the 36-minute mark, and there's a brief interchange between Marshall and a participant, where Marshall practices what you can say that seems to be really supporting a quality of connection with the person that he's listening to. Maybe we'll listen to it next week. We'll find out. And Tanya?
Yeah, this past week I've gotten to see some masterful people practice empathy, and two of my takeaways are it's the more that I can be in zero step, not be attached to outcomes, and secondly, to have the more that I can have confidence that in the idea that people will shift on their own, given the enough of the empathy that they really want. So it has to be the empathy that they really want, and they will shift, but it could take a long, long time to get enough of that empathy. So if we are not in zero step when we're offering empathy, our need to fix or change or control the other person will be evident even without what we're saying.
Absolutely. That's my experience. Yeah, so you've been given a few hints. We'll do more next week. But you've been given enough hints to now go practice. So I'm going to put this into the chat in just a second. The practice. So here's the practice. There's going to be 3 people in the group. In most cases, there might just be 2 in the rare case. But there's 3 roles: an explorer, a listener, and an observer. Today, we'll only have time for 1 explorer, 1 listener, and 1 observer. So when you get to the small group, just find out who's willing to play each role. So you have time to kind of go deep and see what happens here. The explorer just wants to be heard about something. Maybe it's about something that's going on politically, maybe it's about expensive ice cream, who knows what it is. But pick something that you'd like to be heard about, but keep it at a relatively low level of intensity, like we've been doing in previous practices. The listener, your job is to remember your 0 step. Get clear on your intention. Get clear on where you want to place your attention. What are you going to be focusing on? And then give the speaker the gift of presence, space, and focus. And then if you're the one who's the observer, your job is to watch, to just make observations about what you sense is contributing to connection and what you sense might be contributing to disconnection. No judgment, just noticing. And so you'll have 15 minutes to do this. And so if you have a sense that you're finished with the exploration part, then you can just debrief it. You can have a round and say, what was it like for you to be the explorer? What was it like for you to be the listener? What did you notice when you were the observer? So have a few minutes at the end to debrief the experience of these 3 roles. Then we'll come back to the large group here for about 10 minutes at the end and find out what it was like for you. Okay? I put these instructions into the chat, so you'll have them with you. And we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. So right now on my screen, I see almost, I'd say 90% of the cameras are on. And that is just so meaningful for me to actually be able to see your faces. I know some people choose to have your camera off for one reason or another, and I totally honor that. But I just got to tell you that Jori and I talk about it every week, how much we enjoy seeing your faces. It really supports a sense of connection. Yeah, so what was it like for you to have this practice? I wish it could have been 45 minutes long, but what did you get done in 15 minutes? Corey, would you like to just share what it was like for you, since you were talking just a moment ago, just what your own experience was?
Yeah, sure. Fortunately to my members, I hit that blue button right when we were about to complete with Rama. Well, I feel very touched and I guess a sense of honor that what was shared took me very deeply into that person's life and the life with their family, and also my own childhood, so I could relate very much. And it was, I don't know, it was very hard connecting for me. I guess that's the best way to put it, to really want to connect with feelings and needs and really be with that person in the present moment. Yeah, it is such a gift when people trust us, when people trust me with something that is so, deep, I guess is the best way, and painful in many cases. So I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Isn't it amazing that our presence can be a gift to somebody in pain? That's something to really savor and to take away from the class today. Someone else like to share? Have a couple minutes left. Jeannie?
Yeah, I noticed that when I was listening, I wanted to write something down so I would remember. And that was disconnecting. And then I was afraid, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget all this important stuff. And as the explorer explored, things shifted. And what might have been important in the beginning was not who she was at the end. And so I learned to trust the process, kind of like Tanya said just a few minutes ago. Thank you, Tanya. Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you had that immediate experience and feedback. Thanks, Jeannie. Elspeth?
Jim, I just wanted to reflect something you said earlier just before we started the exercise, actually. It really struck me today. You said something along the lines of, there'll always be pain in life because until we find a way to get absolutely excellent at meeting all of our needs, there'll always be pain. And the moments of empathy they don't have to be equal. They can just be happening alongside the pain. And it really struck me today because I've been in some pretty tough situations over the last period of circumstances, and I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed about how on earth I'm going to give myself enough empathy to get over this stuff, or how I can give and receive and be in that reciprocity of good in life to make more good happen, or something like that. But then today during the exercise, what I really got was that even just 10 minutes of empathizing with someone else and the quality of warmth and human ability and witnessing another person in their humanity, that's just filled my heart so much. And I know that it will stay with me today and also carry on through my week. And so it really struck me today how much this matters, and how actually a tiny amount of real presence can make it a massive difference in our quality of life, even in the most difficult of circumstances. I'm just feeling huge gratitude for the practice and the opportunity to experience that.
Sweet. It's wonderful to savor that with you, Elspeth. Inga?
I second everything Elspeth said, and after that, I don't have much to say except that, so in our practice, I was the explorer, and the listener was giving me all this attention and connection and space. So I, without giving me advice or just connecting and being present. So as I was speaking and talking about my experience, then I could understand, listening to myself, understand myself better, what happened, how I didn't go into the needs, and how I just put everything in a shelf, and I didn't have time to analyze the situation. But by him listening to me, I was able to understand exactly my process. So I am very thankful and grateful also for this practice. And yes, that's it. Thank you.
That is a wonderful takeaway. Hope you guys caught it. Let me see if I caught it. Correct me if I didn't get it, Inga. But empathy from another person is a gift because it supports our own self-connection. And when another person is present with us, it helps us to get more in contact with what's alive in us, our feelings, our needs, our observations and requests. So that's why it's such a gift. Jeff, and then we'll be finished for today.
Yeah, thank you for the space. I was the observer, and I really appreciated the opportunity to do that because I need to practice observing and speaking observations instead of judgments. And what I experienced in the process, the fact that there were three, I've always imagined that just the person receiving the empathy is the one who gets the blessing or the benefit. But I think the person who was listening, the person who was exploring, and me as the observer, we all benefited from the sense of connection, and that was powerful for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the world I want to live in, where our gifts are given and everybody benefits. That's beautiful. Thanks, Jeff. All right. Well, next week we'll continue. We'll keep going with empathy. Here's the link in the chat for the after party. If you feel like you want to go get some more empathy or hang out and debrief what's going on, have a cup of tea with some friends, you can click on over to that link. I won't be there, but other people might be. And you guys can hang out for as long as you'd like and enjoy the opportunity to live in the world that you want to co-create. And we'll see you all next week.